Hello, I'm Howard County Historical Society Executive Director Ann Shaw. I'd like to welcome you to the 2026 Hall of Legends event. In our 16th year, we are excited once again to induct 6 very deserving people to a group of over 90 individuals and groups that have made a difference locally and beyond. This year's inductees include Ebony Gatlin Griffin, a senior broadcast producer of Good Morning America; the late William Simon Harris, a Medal of Honor recipient and a veteran of the Philippine insurrection; the late Dick Moore, a local businessman and community leader; the late Bob Simmons, a professional golf course Imagineer; Dr. Melanie Zeck, an accomplished reference librarian at the Library of Congress; and her mother, local retired teacher Patty Zeck. Please sit back as we listen to their inspiring stories.
Yeah, so I started my kind of TV production journey at Kokomo High School, where I was a part of the Career Center and took television production courses. And through kind of that course, discovered I really like this. This is kind of fun. I could do this as a career. We were doing things like competing in anchoring competitions and newscast competitions at Ball State and other area colleges. So then when I left the Career Center and went to IU, I had a firm kind of understanding of what journalism was and what production was, and kind of really a solidified idea that this was kind of the career that I wanted to pursue. So originally, I thought I went to college thinking I was going to be on air, even for the first couple years of journalism school at Bloomington. That was my goal, was to get a reporting job somewhere. What I understood the career path to be was that you had to be a reporter in the middle of nowhere, Idaho, and then you would work your way through the markets. And so you eventually got to a bigger market and you could anchor, but you had to start at the bottom and kind of do all this jumping around to get where you wanted to go. So in my mind, I thought that's what I wanted to do. As I started to do internships and be exposed to kind of actual newsrooms, I recognized kind of jobs that I didn't really know existed, like producing. What does a producer do, and why is that important? And how did the stories get chosen for the newscast? And then I realized that, I was a little bossy and I like to tell people what to do and not be told what to do. I wanted to dictate what stories were being covered and what voices we were bringing into the conversation, and, kind of shape the newscast in more of a hands-on way rather than just kind of being on the back end of reporting it after the decisions are made. So, but yeah, I get to do really cool things. And I think I said last time, you get to sit in people's living rooms. Like, we did something, like I said, with Liza Minnelli, Lionel Richie, and you're like sitting on his couch and you're like, how did I get here? And also, this is like really freaking cool. I'm sitting on Lionel Richie's couch. Like, so you have those moments where you're like, pinch me, but thank you for this blessing, because it's truly kind of a blessing. No 2 days really look alike, right? Because it's very much driven by the news. And as you know, one day we can be talking about a blizzard across the country, and the next day we're at war. So there are no 2 days that are alike, which is kind of the thrill of it, but also the pain point of it. But in essence, I support one of our major talent for our show, running a team of producers that produces content geared specifically for her. So my job is to ensure that we are pitching kind of a diverse range of stories to be included in the broadcast, that we are including a variety of voices that represent all of America, that we are factually correct, first and foremost, that we are telling the story in a way that most average Americans can understand. The world is very complex right now, and the why and the how and the who can be very confusing. And frankly, the attention spans of most people are just not long enough to stick with it. So you have to present information concisely and clearly. So I am working with a team of producers to review their scripts, to make sure that when we do even the lifestyle or celebrity interviews, that we're asking questions that people want to know, that we're telling their story fully, that, really that the show and the at Anchor I support are kind of positioned in the best possible place on any given day to report the news. I found out I was pregnant going into my senior year, the summer leading into senior year of high school. And I just, it was a shock to everybody, and parents included, and me. And I was always driven, always had goals, always knew kind of what I thought I wanted. And I was determined that nothing was going to change just because I was pregnant. I also was very active in the high school and the career center. I was senior class president. I was president of Girls League, or, heavily involved in Girls League and all these clubs and organizations. And so, when people found out within the school district, even, I remember there were board meetings about whether I should have to step down as senior class president because, what does this look like? Or, how do we have this? I specifically recall, even leading up to graduation, there being a cartoon that somebody made of a pregnant girl giving a speech at graduation that was published. So it was very vocal that there were people like, oh, she can't represent us. She shouldn't be there. She shouldn't. So that was an early taste of kind of, what could come. But I had a family that was very supportive. They were like, oh, girl, what did you do? But then also like, oh, we'll figure it out. We got you. But there were equal amount of people who said, your life is over. Whatever dreams you thought you were going to do, you need to come up with a new plan. You need to go to Chrysler or Delco at the time and get you a factory job so you can provide for this baby and be in town with family. Like they couldn't envision that there was another way or a bigger life that might be in store for me. But that was never an option for me, regardless of who said it or why. I had lots of encouragement from certain community leaders and teachers who were like, you got this. Yes, it's gonna suck. It's gonna be hard, but it's nothing that you can't do. Prove them wrong. Go be great. You're still the same person. So I had a lot of people kind of pushing me forward in the midst of people who were like, girl, you ruined it. It's over. And we're vocal enough to say that. So, in a way, that audacity and that the critique from haters, if you will, really was more ammunition of like, I can't screw this up. I gotta be as big and do as great as I can be and be as great as I can be, just to prove them wrong and just to like, who says that I have to stop everything I want because I have a kid? And so I didn't. And she went to college with me. I like to say that she has 2 degrees because she got one at IU and then she went to Howard and graduated from Howard. She's amazing. It taught her a resilience that I don't think she would have had otherwise because she watched me grind and hustle and struggle and network and figure my way. There were no handouts. I didn't have a silver spoon. I didn't have a fairy godmother. It was literally like, grinding it out. And sometimes she was at the desk with me on the overnight shifts or, under my desk laying on a blanket because it was, a late shift and she was tired or she was sick, but we figured it out together. So I do not recommend young motherhood, teenage motherhood for anyone. It's not a path that I'm like, oh, sure, it's great. You can do it. It's wonderful and berries and butterflies. But I think that if you find yourself in that situation or any situation that presents hardship or difficulty, you got 2 options. You can sink or you can swim. And I had enough people that even when I couldn't swim, helped me float. And helped me get where I was trying to go. So I'm very grateful for that. My advice to a current Kokomo High School student, whether you want to do journalism or whether you're just trying to figure out whatever you want to do or whatever your dream is really one to enjoy the ride, right? Like high school is its own special beast. We're all in a hurry to get to the next thing, but we never get the previous thing back. So enjoy high school, do all the things. Go to the prom, go to the homecoming, go to the games, enjoy your friends, because you don't get those experiences back. And COVID taught us that, right? That it can all go away in an instant and you can, not get any of that. So I'm always mindful of like, enjoy where you are right now. That would be 1. And then 2 would be just really, I am a believer that there is no such thing as luck. It's all about preparation for the right opportunity. So take advantage of the resources and the kind of where you are now. I mentioned the Career Center and how instrumental that was for me, but maybe there's not something that you want to do at the Career Center. There's, find somebody who has a job that you might want, and you can, job shadow. You can reach out, ask about their path, ask what it took to get there. I find, and usually I experience, that people love to talk about themselves. So if you reach out and you ask, can you have coffee, or can you come sit with them on a day that you have half day of school? They usually are very receptive to that. While I'm grateful for this award and this recognition, I am not extraordinary. I am a girl from Kokomo, Indiana, who, was raised with a great support system and a great family, who kind of veered off course a little bit, but then found her way back. And then really never lost sight of her goals and took advantage of the opportunities in front of her. And that's a story and something that anyone can do it, regardless of what their thing is, whether it's a kid or, dysfunction in your household or drugs or whatever. It really is just about the fortitude and the kind of strength and the dedication to pursue whatever it is that you want to pursue.
I'm Dave Capshaw. I'm the post commander, VFW 1152. I'm also past state commander for 2019 to 2021. Longest serving state commander in the history of the VFW. And currently I'm on the National Legislative Committee in Washington, D.C. So I'm here to speak about Simon Harris and his exploits in 1899. And that just happens to be the year that the VFW was founded. Simon Harris was a very interesting person. Of course, he wasn't originally from Kokomo, but he moved here afterwards. But he was actually recommended for 2 different Medal of Honors, and he received one of them. And the other one, who knows whatever happened to it. But after all these years, for him finally to receive it after he passed away is quite something. But very rarely do you have 2 people, or someone that's been recommended for 2 separate Medal of Honors. Actually, it was in the same week. The one that he was awarded was May 16th, 1899, and 3 days prior to that, through other actions in what they called the Philippine Insurrection, he was recommended for a separate one before that one. The one that he actually was awarded, there was 23 men that were out in front. They were like the forefathers of our Navy SEALs and Green Berets, the scout platoon he was in. And he, with 23 men, went up against 600 to advance. And one of them was killed, but that was the only injury. And for that, they went across the river in a burning bridge to secure the bridge. And for his exploits that day, he finally was awarded the medal. Mike Eberhart is a retired attorney in Texas. And that's all he does is go through archives and researches different issues. And he stumbled upon Simon Harris. And that's how it came to light, was his research into the archives, because without him, we still wouldn't have it. Family in Michigan, and they got a hold of them, and then one thing led to another, and they got the ball rolling. And the VFW in Kokomo was very happy to spearhead that, and it turned out really nice.
I'm Mary Connie Schreperman, Harris Schreperman, and my grandfather was Simon Harris, William Harris. I was probably 22 something when he passed. So I knew him for a while, and very unassuming man, very quiet, didn't talk war stories with the girls at all. I understand he did with some of the boys, but not with the girls. And so My thoughts of him are always in the basement because he was there a lot and he had a shoe and he would repair all of our shoes. At that time, there were a few, but now we ended with 13, but he would repair all of our shoes. And he just worked down there a lot. Yes, he did work for the railroad. He was in one of those, where they climb up the ladder and sit and see the train coming and then they announce it. And at that time there were 2 hotels and he would carry luggage he'd come down and carry luggage to the hotels for him. I honestly, we are almost sure he was an orphan who was never adopted. Again, he was very quiet. He didn't talk about those kind of things.
Dick was born in Huntington, Indiana, lived there his whole life. He was very blessed. His whole family was there, such as grandparents, great-grandparents, uncles, aunts, because Huntington was rich in the heritage of the Miami tribe, and Dick is a descendant of the tribe. Chief LaFountain's house is there. His mother was born in that house. So he was blessed with a whole family there, and I was born and raised there also. We did meet because we have gone to school from the first grade to graduation together. And yes, we kind of liked each other. We only lived 2 blocks apart, and he would ask to walk me home, and I was thrilled in the middle school. Then I found out that my mother gave him Cokes and brownies, and that's kind of what he told me he was walking me home for, but it was okay. So then in high school, we started dating again, and he was the basketball standout, and I was cheerleader cheering him on. He was class president, I was vice president. So then after high school, he went to Xavier University, but then his summer job was working with the surveyor, and he literally fell in love with maps, road atlases. Road Atlas should have been his Bible. He just loved all that. So he did not go back to school. He worked in the surveyor's office. They wanted him to run for surveyor. But in the meantime, the title gentleman in Huntington approached him about coming to Kokomo. In the process of the title gentleman approaching him about moving to Kokomo, we had just gotten married in 1969. This was 1970, the man started talking to Dick. 1971, we now have a 1.5-year-old and a 2-month-old. And it was a huge decision whether to move from both of our families and to move to a place we had never heard of. But he quickly fell in love with it. Again, Kokomo was such a Miami heritage, and he felt really at home. He did move here, I bet 6 months or more before the family came. So he had a chance to get his feet on the ground and decided it was okay to bring us over here. So, yes. And right away he started in with the organizations, committees, and everything else. I mean, he just seemed to really fit in. Dick quickly let the world and the community know that he was not just a title insurance person. He had such a background in surveying, knowing the land, knowing how to prevent some disputes, and accurate measuring. He knew the importance of all that. So quickly we had attorneys calling him. We had realtors always calling him. He belonged to the Indiana Land Title Association. Those people would approach him. He was just, they quickly saw he was more than just a title person coming in, taking over. And there again, back to his detail. He's very detailed. He was very detailed in everything, and he knew every blueprint, every file that we had. But he would sometimes load us all up, the kids, and we would drive around because he would want to see exactly where those issues were and why. And so he never stopped at just one thing. And there again, his road atlas, his maps. We still have about 10 of his road atlases at home. So anyhow, but so it was really great. And that was going on up until we sold the business. People were still calling him. I was thoroughly amazed. Along with his job, which took a lot of time, he quickly became active in his children's sports. And in fact, I almost brought a plaque where he has coach. A lot of people still refer him to the coach. And he coached way before the kids were in school, but then he coached all of those kids. So that was a lot of our social activities. Mother, of course, had to do the concession stands, but he was very active in all that. Along with all the sports and everything else, Dick was very active in the community. Kiwanis, Rotary, oh my goodness, the Realtor Association. He was one of the beginning of the Women's Realtor Association. In those days, women weren't involved in that, so he was really big in that. Goodness. And he didn't just belong, he just really put his whole self into it. So he was president of the Indiana Land Title Association. Yes, he was very active, and there's probably so many more organizations that I could name off, but yes, he was a busy guy. Dick was really an avid, well, we call him the quiet giant because sometimes you didn't know what he was up to, but he had a real love of children being misused, abused or whatever, and he was very active in installing the baby box at the fire station. He had heard about it in some other towns, and thank goodness we have one here in town. He was really excited that he was asked to be on the historical committee because growing up, even though Huntington was very rich in the heritage, it was a time that you didn't talk about it. They even asked him to be chief at one time, and he turned that down because he thought his uncle should take that privilege. But it wasn't talked about. You were still kind of a lower class person. And gosh, when he moved to Kokomo, he saw that there was more excitement and everything. And he would go around to the public schools asked him, because our kids all went to Catholic school, but the schools would ask him to come talk. And so he would talk to the kids about the heritage, and so that even helped our kids know more, because like I said, growing up, you just didn't talk about too much of that. Okay, well, Dick and I were very blessed with 5 children. The first 4 were just a year apart. Then we had our youngest, Michael. Needless to say, Dick was involved in each and every one of them. They all went to different colleges, so we had to fly all the different flags, and he had a little hard time because Dick was a Notre Dame person, but we did well with all the others. He was so proud of them. He was very excited when both boys were in the business. And then of course, Tyler pursued another field. But Michael is a lot like Dick, following in his footsteps and knowing the things that Dick knew. And so he was just very proud of each one. Each one has their own, well, of course, the one girl was on the winning state girls basketball team. That was big for him. Dick's legacy, that I'm sure he's very proud of, is we kind of laugh and call them the 5 C's. I think his children, church, community, cars. He loved his 65 Corvette, and the Cubs. He was a very silent giant until it came to a Cub game. And then Mr. Moore might just get a little out of control, I hear. But the trust in good business ethics, he never had a bad word to say about anybody, never held grudges. So I think the kids are very blessed to have that. I've thought about me sitting here trying to tell you what a wonderful guy he was. He would be so, here I am, I'm sorry. He would be so excited and appreciative. I did not come up with the word humble because I think appreciative, that was Dick. He appreciated everything. He's just very sorry he isn't here. And I'm sorry that I can't speak as well for him as he could.
Okay, my name is John Kelly. I do a golf column for the Kokomo Tribune, and I used to be a member at Green Acres Golf Club for close to 20 years, and Bob was a designer of that golf course. Bob was born in Camden, Indiana, which is just north of Flora and east of Delphi. The family moved to Kokomo when he was a young boy. He had a brother and 3 sisters. Well, at the age of 9, he started to caddy at the Kokomo Country Club. There was no public golf course in Kokomo at the time, so he started caddying there. And he had the opportunity to caddy for Bobby Reasoner, who was a 3-time Indiana amateur champion, as well as a renowned physician in town, Dr. A.W. Holcomb, and I'm sure he learned a lot from them. So that's how he got his start in golf. And obviously caddying for such a good player, he would have learned a little bit about the game. Yeah, usually if you're a caddy, usually there's one day they may have a caddy day. They get to play golf, maybe it's closed to the public, but the caddies can play, so he can get some opportunities there. Kokomo didn't have a public golf course until the Legion opened in 1927, so he would have been 19 years old, so he would have gotten more opportunity to play after that. And I guess golf must have been a really strong interest, so he became an assistant golf professional and took the PGA Apprentice program through a pro in Moraine, Ohio. And he became a golf professional in Kokomo and some surrounding states, Ohio and Illinois as well. He built the Kokomo driving range. It's where like Rural King is today. And that was in 1940, added a miniature golf course in 1941. So he was, played in the PGA events. He was a very good golfer. The family moved to Texas in 1951, and he built a range and a miniature golf course down there as well. And as his daughter indicated, he was playing around in the garage, modeling golf greens and stuff. And somehow there were some entrepreneurs that wanted to build a golf course, and maybe because he had the driving range and did instruction, not sure, but they came to him and says, "Hey, can you build a golf course?" And having all the experience that he had building golf courses, which was 0 at the time, he says, "Sure, I can do that." And he built his first course. I think he started in 54 or 55, and it was open, I think, in 55 or 56, and it was Jersey Meadow in Houston, Texas. And then he moved back to Kokomo, and he did the Bunker Hill Air Force Base course, which is now Leaning Tree. It's up at Grissom. So one of the first courses that he had an opportunity to do with Dick Wilson was Royal Montreal. And Royal Montreal is the oldest golf club in North America. It formed in 1873. They had moved to another location, and then there was a train going through it, and they were getting landlocked, and they needed more space. So they bought over 600 acres in the Ottawa River on Ile Bizard. So it was a huge job, and they started in May of 1957, and they had all that work done by October of 57. And Bob even, there's a picture of him playing with a makeshift cup on the green, but it took another period of time to get all the holes open. I think it opened to the public the next year, and fully opened with a clubhouse in 1959. Bob believed that you needed to be a fine golfer in order to do a good golf course. As far as the construction itself, he would fly over the land with a helicopter, get the lay of the land, and get topological drawings to see what the levels and stuff were, because he had to understand drainage and irrigation, what soils would be suitable for the area, what types of grasses you use. There's some golf courses, old style golf courses you might go to, and the holes go back and forth. Bob always wanted to have some curve. Wouldn't curve the same way. They'd curve left or curve right. He would rarely do sharp dog legs. He wanted the course to be playable by everybody, so the greens were contoured with maybe could handle 1 or 2 tough pins and some easier pins, more accessible pins, not blocked by blocked by bunkers. So you had to take all this into consideration. But one of the stories with the heavy equipment, these are big earth-moving equipment. Well, they had a ferry and they had a bridge to get to the island, and the bridge was a rickety old bridge, as I understand it. Pieces would fall off when cars would go across it. And so he was wondering, how am I going to get all this really large earth-moving equipment across this bridge onto the island? Well, there was a priest, the church right there, and the priest was there at the bridge wondering what he was doing. He says, I got to figure out how to get all this across. He says, don't worry, when you're moving across, I'll be here, I'll pray it across for you, as long as you don't work on Sundays. His original plan was to work, 12-hour days, 7 days a week. Sure enough, they got all the equipment across, and Bob, since that point, never worked on a Sunday again. They decided to work Monday through Friday, 14-hour days, and they got all this work done. It was I think it would have probably been the crowning achievement of his career as far as the size of the scope of the task and getting all that work done. And Royal Montreal, it held the Canadian Open first in 1975 and subsequently held it 4 more times, but it was also a 2-time host of the President's Cup. And after Royal Montreal, it was shortly thereafter, I think he went to Lyford Key, Bahamas. It was the first modern golf course built in the Bahamas. Again, this was associated with Dick Wilson. He's done 2 courses in the Bahamas. He did Moon Valley in Phoenix, which was the only course that he worked on west of the Mississippi. Bay Hill is one that most people will recognize. Arnold Palmer now owns Bay Hill. He just recently had a tournament a couple weeks ago there. Bob did all the construction work there and actually did design and construction on the 3rd 9, which was called the Charger 9. While he was at Royal Montreal and his other courses that he did with Dick Wilson, Bob pretty much had full control over what was done. Wilson did the drawings. Wilson trusted Simmons. Simmons, could tweak here and there to make the course better as it was. I certainly wasn't redesigning it, but he was making it more playable, more enjoyable, and maybe matching to what the land would provide. So he worked with Wilson for at least 4 or 5 years, and then he started to go off on his own. With the newspapers.com and being able to find records, Bob didn't really keep really good records. They had a list, Cinda had a list, Cinda's daughter had a list of maybe 40 courses that he was involved in. The list is now about 90 long, 90 facilities. We only had 1 west of Mississippi, and that was the Moon Valley course, which interesting is where Annika Sorenstam shot the only women's 59. It was redone since Bob had done the course, but that was where the only women's 59 has been shot. But other than that, obviously you got the 25 plus courses around Indiana. I think he did 1 in Illinois, several in Ohio, Tennessee, Virginia, West Virginia, Georgia, and a bunch in Florida, Alabama, Jackson, Mississippi. I think there's 1 in Hot Springs, Arkansas. So pretty much in the eastern half of the United States, and nothing in Pennsylvania, nothing north of Pennsylvania. But just a wide variety of work, and some of them are really, really good courses. I think one of the things I was thinking about the courses and Bob's, he felt the fairway should be fair. That's where you want to hit the ball. So he wouldn't put a bunker in the middle of the fairway. He wouldn't put a creek going across the fairway. You can keep them along the sides. So you see a lot of his courses and Wilson's courses, you're going to see bunkers out at the driving distance, so let's say 250 plus yards. 1 in the left, 1 in the right. They might vary in distance a little bit. And great bunkering around the green. So he really wanted cover the breadth of golfer skill levels. People that can enjoy it, they can't hit it maybe very far. He believed that a man should be able to hit the ball 150 yards, so he wouldn't put forced carries like a lake in front of a tee that you had to hit, a guy had to hit it more than 150 yards, or a woman had to hit it more than 75 yards. He wanted it to be an enjoyable experience, but yet challenging, and so his courses were designed to be enjoyable by everybody, but could also withstand a competition and make it a little bit tougher with tougher pin placements. I'm really happy for Cinda and her family that Bob finally getting the recognition that he deserved, because he didn't really promote himself that much, but he's done a lot of great work. I mean, yes, he showed up in the papers. You can go to the Tribune and find an article in Royal Montreal in '57. You can find Bob Ford interviews, and when the sports page was around, me and Connor did that. There was a 3-page spread in the sports page, so there's a lot of material out there. But today's golfers or people, unless they're pretty old, they're not going to remember any of that. I didn't remember any of that. I mean, I was a member at Green Acres from like 80 through probably the late 90s. Bob died in 1986, so yeah, I had a 7-year opportunity to maybe meet him, never did, and it never really crossed my mind. So there's a lot of people that just aren't aware of the breadth and volume of the work that he did. I really think he's a deserving candidate for the Indiana Golf Hall of Fame. There's only 2 architects in there now.
I was born in Kokomo, Indiana, and I grew up in the Country Club Hills neighborhood on the south side of town, which is near Boulevard Elementary School. And I went there from kindergarten through the 3rd grade. I did 4th grade through 7th grade at Maple Crest Middle School. Then I went to the downtown campus for 8th and 9th grade, and then out to the big campus on Berkeley Road for 10th grade through 12th grade. I was active in Girl Scouting. I went all the way through and got my Gold Award. I was active in the marching band, and I spent a lot of my free time conducting science experiments in my house and at my mom's laboratory. I went to Indiana State University, and I studied music and languages while I was there. And then after I graduated, I went into a double master's program governed by Northwestern University, which is in Evanston, Illinois. And there I got a library degree as well as a master's degree in music. And I played the whole time. I played bassoon in the orchestra and in the wind ensemble the whole time. Did master classes with the famous bassoonists who came to campus. And then after I graduated, I worked as a librarian. And then by the time I was 30, I went to school to the University of Chicago, where I started a PhD program in the history and theory of music. I'd been working in libraries as a student and then a paraprofessional and then as a professional for over 20 years by the time I got to the Library of Congress. And as I was wrapping up my PhD at the University of Chicago, and the research center where I had been employed for 15 years was dwindling in terms of financial viability, I picked about 4 different libraries in the United States that I thought would be a good fit for me. I wanted a balance of research and public outreach. Having been at research institutions for many years, I realized that my best work is when I can do both, when I can take in information and then I can be part of the dissemination and teaching process. And when I saw an opening at the Library of Congress, there's 16 divisions here. So you can be as much of a specialist as you want, or you can work in an environment that requires a more general approach. And I really wasn't sure. There is a music division at the Library of Congress, but by this time, again, with my work in New Harmony, with my work at my previous place of employment at the Center for Black Music Research, with my interests at the University of Chicago, I wanted something where I could continue researching music making traditions, but I also wanted to incorporate other artistic forms of expression or forms of artistic expression in my work. And the American Folklife Center was at that time and continues to be probably the perfect place for me. Here we have 10 areas of distinction, which means our collections include 10 different topics of focus. 3 of them are related to music. We are the library's repository for music of indigenous communities, music of the United States, which of course would include Pete Seeger, Woody Guthrie, Lead Belly. But we also are the repository for music of the world, which is interesting when you think about the term American Folklife Center. We do have materials from every state, every territory, and every commonwealth, but we have resources in over 500 languages from around the world because historians, religious leaders, scholars, anthropologists, etc., they go abroad and conduct their field work and their interviews and their archival research and their sound recordings. And when they come back to the United States, ultimately they bequeath their materials to the Library of Congress for safekeeping and for research consultations. I think I have a skewed opinion of myself because in my 40s, I started doing things that were absolutely brand new. And I started from scratch on a couple of different projects that I knew nothing about before I started. And as I've progressed, it's really changed my ideas about adult education and adults can do when given enough time and enough encouragement and enough resources. And it can be really enriching to consider yourself to be somewhat knowledgeable about a particular topic and enough to guide somebody else. But when you take on something new, whether it's physical or whether it's intellectual, and you start as an absolute beginner, it's incredibly humbling. And I often forget how crazy some of my adventures sound when I tell people, because I just kind of plod along in life looking for the next book, looking for the next thing that captures my eye. But when I really get into something, nothing's going to stop me. And when I first started studying Swahili, I started out knowing 3 words from The Lion King. I knew so little Swahili, in fact, that I didn't even know there was more Swahili in the film than I realized. And I enjoyed it so much and what it afforded me in terms of understanding different worldviews, understanding different literatures, understanding different perspectives and approaches to life, that it's an ongoing journey. I will never be fully fluent. I don't live in country, but to be functional and to be okay with that was something new to me because I'd spent so many years in school striving to get all of the marks on an exam or striving to perform my piece perfectly. It wasn't really until I hit this point in my life that I wanted to try something new, but I had to give myself permission to be functional, to be okay, to be in progress, to be a work in progress. That was a tough pill to swallow. But in learning this, finally, it's been such a joy because at the same time, it's opened up so many new avenues that even 6 or 7 years ago simply weren't possible. The same thing with approaching a new sport or a new physical activity. I always did archery when I was in Girl Scouts, but I finally started getting more serious, especially, this before the pandemic, I enjoyed archery too, but during the pandemic, I had lots of extra time on my hands and really practiced. And it wasn't until when I went to Tanzania a couple of years ago that I got to practice with a longbow, which was a totally different experience. And then I really had to consider what archery meant, not as a sport, but as a way of life for hunter-gatherers in Tanzania. And it all goes back to folk life and lived traditions and sharing what you know with others and creating a pipeline of people who are interested in trying something new. And it can be really hard today to try something new. There's so many pressures on perfection. There's so many pressures on monetizing your hobby. Sometimes you just want to do something for the sake of doing that. And working at the library has finally allowed my life to open up in a way that I'm ready to serve the people who come to the library, but I'm also ready to learn at someone else's feet on something that is really their domain, because it affords a much richer, much more holistic perspective on life. It's a real honor to be inducted into the Kokomo Historical Society Hall of Legends. My path to learning about and celebrating local history has been somewhat unorthodox, but to return and to celebrate my own commitment to learning, to education, and to celebrating one's place of birth and family homestead, it's a real privilege, especially in today's society when sometimes one's home is no longer there, or things have changed so much beyond recognition that thinking of celebrating is just not a possibility. But here I am with my mother, and she's being inducted. That's pretty special to see that someone that I look up to is admired by those who are making these decisions. And for that, I'm grateful, not just to come here to celebrate, but to celebrate with and for my mother, who has worked very hard since the late 1960s to make Kokomo a better place, a place where knowledge is revered, a place where inquiry is considered important. And I think that when we look at the way she's lived her life and executed her standards of excellence, we see that in the other members of the Kokomo Historical Society's staff and board who want Kokomo to continue to be a place of purpose, a place of knowledge, and a place where inquiry into one's past is celebrated, promoted, and supported.
I was born and raised in Terre Haute, Indiana. It was a pretty typical childhood. I had a younger brother, 2.5 years younger, and that went on until 1955. And when I was 9 years old, my father died unexpectedly, and my brother was 7. So that meant mother was widowed at age 36. She never remarried, and she had 2 little kids to take care of. Fortunately, my aunt and uncle lived 2 blocks down the street. My grandparents lived 7 blocks away, and the other grandmother lived in town. So there was support for the family, but it certainly changed the lifestyle that we had. Mother stayed home with us until both Joe, my brother, and I were in school full time. Back then, you came home for lunch and the mother fixed lunch and then you went back to school. But once I was in high school and he was in junior high, then mother went to work as a secretary in the school system. Well, I graduated from Indiana State University with a bachelor's in biology and chemistry, and then my master's was in ecology and conservation. I did my student teaching in Evansville with J. Maxwell Davis, who was the author of BSCS Biology, the up-and-coming way to do biology with labs. So I was looking for a school that had BSCS Biology, and sure enough, Northwestern had the yellow version, which was the cellular approach. It also had the blue version, which was the molecular approach. Now, they didn't have the green one, that was ecology, but 70% of the course content was the same, and I was very happy to find a school that had yellow version biology, blue was fine, and I had a lab with windows to the outside. My mother's best friend had taught in Kokomo and said that was a wonderful place to be, so it had the motherly stamp of approval. and I moved to Kokomo. I started teaching at Northwestern in 1968. And at that point, I was the only female high school science teacher in all 6 county schools combined. Well, on December the 4th, 1969, I was driving to school. It was icy on a badly crowned road, and I went off into the ditch and wrapped my 63 Impala Super Sport around a telephone pole. I climbed out of the car, went across the street where there was a light on, and they said, "Oh, you're the first of the wrecks of the year. We usually have 11 of them that come by here and come over and use the car phone." And the owner of the house said, "You have to call the sheriff's department." Well, I was just going to call the wrecker. And they said, "Believe me, lady, you got to call the sheriff's department." So they sent out John Zeck, and I met him because he rescued me out of a ditch. I started in 1968. We had to wear dresses or skirts. Pants were not allowed. If you wore pants to school because it was closed or chilly or snowy or some disaster, you had to go to the restroom before you went to your class, change out of your pants to a skirt or dress, and then proceed down the hall to your classroom. It was the Vietnam era, so things were different with the kinds of labs. A lot of men had applied for the same job, but the administration told me that they wanted someone who would look at the classroom all day and not longingly at the football field. Well, I went to about 26 international science fairs, and they were scattered. Once in a while, we'd go to the same city twice, but at that point, the Science Service, the group that sponsored the national competition, believed in rotation. So we got to go, oh my. The places where the international flights could arrive more easily and get through customs for the children who were coming from abroad. I liked designing the lessons that would teach what I wanted them to learn. Then we'd go into labs. I would write extra materials for them. I like to write, so the English part did come through eventually. When I had a senior research class at Northwestern, we did labs, and we did them so much that I'd look to the kids and say, well, we haven't had an oral discussion, outline, notes for about 3 weeks. Do you suppose we ought to go into lab, leave the lab and go take our notes and tie it together? And that was fine with them. It was a good group of students year after year after year. I was certainly blessed with the kinds of students I had, with the support from the administration, and parents were cooperative and supportive as well. Goodness knows I had their children there at labs long enough that they had to be cooperative. There's just no other way. Not all of them drove. I retired in 2013 after 45 years of teaching. It was a good time to make a break. The administration was changing, the role of computers was changing. I had already taught past age 65, and then more after that. So I looked at my advanced class and thought the sophomores would have 2 years with a new teacher, and the one junior that I had a father who was a professor, so I knew that she would be guided as well, so I would not be leaving all my science research students in a lurch. I loved my teaching, but there was a time. Teaching is not just all the high-level children. You have to be able to reach them all, one way or another, and to have a student who has had a difficulty in learning come around and tell the public, science fair turned my life around, was probably one of the biggest rewards I ever had. I have other students who struggled in one way or another and had to come out and find a way in life. I had a class one time that definitely was an underachieving class. We had Martin Luther King Day, and I always wrote my assignments on the board. So if it's Martin Luther King Day, we were going to be out of school, and I wrote MLK. Hand went up. Miss Zeck, why are we going to study milk? I said, it's Martin Luther King Day, and you're not going to be in school. So we go fast forward into March, and this young lady on the front row said, Miss Zeck, we've come a long way, haven't we? And I said, 6 months you have. How do you think you've come along? Hands went up all over the room as they said how they had learned to grow up. You're not going to get rich, not in the monetary sense, but knowing that you have helped children, and maybe even the parents too, is a reward that money can't buy. And to know that even if they've struggled, that they come back and give you a hug and say thank you. I think that's important. I also think it's important for whatever profession that you are in, that you reach outside that profession and share the science or the history or whatever your interest is with someone else. I joined the Hoosier Science Teachers Association way back in the 80s, never dreaming that I would become president and plan a convention for 2,500 teachers with 400 vendors and end up with the biggest convention that had ever been done in the history of the organization. But with that, I got to meet all kinds of people I wouldn't have met either. Anyway, I met Nobel Prize winners, I met military, I met teachers and networked so that I could enjoy what I was doing too. And then my students would meet them. So this was great. Well, John and I have been married for 55 years. We have 2 children. Melanie, who is a research librarian at the Library of Congress in Washington, D.C., and John David, who's here in Kokomo and works in food service and advising people on travel that they like to do. In his next life, he probably should be an event planner and a travel consultant. He just loves that sort of thing. Wonderful, thank you. It's such an honor, and to have Melanie at the same time makes it extra special. Completely unexpected, but thank you.